Hello guys, my name is Anna and I'm a Ukrainian, and I have decided I will vlog daily from my country Ukraine since the start of this awful war with Russia. And in my daily videos I try to update you on the important real life situations in Ukraine, and of course I'm always glad to answer your questions and to clarify some facts from our history, our culture, or whatever interests you. And today I want to speak about the topic I don't like, but I believe it's important. This is the idea, the notion, or even a philosophical trend of russkiy mir. First of all, russkiy mir can be translated into English in two different ways, because the Russian word mir has two meanings. Meaning number one is the world, so Russian world, and meaning number two is peace, Russian peace. So the second version sounds very sarcastic, taking into account that the idea of Russian world, so popular among present-day politicians in Russia, is actually the reason, one of the backgrounds of many modern wars that appeared due to Russian soldiers and Russian powers in many countries who once belonged to the Soviet Union, were actually occupied by Soviet Union. So this idea of russkiy mir, Russian world, became extremely popular approximately in the time when Vladimir Putin became the president of Russia. And perhaps it very much reflects his attitude to the role of Russia and him personally in the world and in global politics. Russian world, the idea of Russian world can be described as a philosophical trend or a geopolitical trend. And it is a very popular phrase that appeared in Russian discourse somewhere at the beginning of the 2000s. Later, this conception was very much adapted and popularized by another man who was responsible for Ukraine and the start of Russian-Ukrainian war in 2014. That is Surkov, who often liked to repeat Russian world phrases and also described one of the reasons of Russian war and annexation of the Crimea as the desire to expand and strengthen russkiy mir. If you look up this definition, this idea in Wikipedia or elsewhere, and I don't advise you to read long philosophical things, you will see that the idea of Russian world is based on the idea of shared ethnicity, religion, and heritage. But when it deals with heritage, Russians like to destroy the heritage, cultural heritage of other countries, and just to oppress and to bring their language, their culture, and their vision of the world. If you compare russkiy mir, Russian world, to the idea of Third Reich, Hitler's idea of his new world, you will see many similarities, which once again prove if there are Nazis on the territory of Ukraine, they are Russian soldiers. So, one of what are the main components of this Russian world as described by Putin or Patriarch Kirill, who is the head of Russian Orthodox Church? Well, first of all, it is actually religion and Russian Orthodox Church. Number two, this is Russian language and Russian culture that go together. And number three is the typical Russian political system that is always based on dictatorship and no free will, no free speech, but somehow Russians like it. And very often when they describe the best kings, the best tsars, the best presidents, these are dictators like Putin, like Stalin, like Alexander III, it seems to me. And it is a very common Russian phrase that we don't need that democracy. Democracy is evil. We need a strong hand. I don't know if there is such phrase in the English language, but that's what people often like to repeat. They like to be like in the hand of the dictator. So many Russians actually enjoy that. And as a result, common past of the countries that once belonged to USSR or to Russian Empire is very slowly transformed into common future, and they believe that the countries that they describe as a part of the Russian world cannot be independent in their choice of future because of this shared past, even if it was like a very doomed period for countries like mine. And also, another very strong description of Russkiy Mir is that it is always shown as an antipode, as an opposition to the rotten West. And they typically like to collect and stress the problems that the Western world has, and to show that Russkiy Mir, Russian world, is the only hope of the world, is the only world that still has connection with God, that still obeys the rules, that and there are other things that they like to describe as the pluses of Russkiy Mir that actually sound very, very Nazi. So if to look at it neutrally, even if to look at it neutrally, you will see that Russkiy Mir is the idea of perhaps orthodox radicalism, mixed with nationalism and mixed with Stalinism, a love for totalitarian regimes. I don't know what must be in a person's head when they describe Russian world and they see this cultural heritage and political heritage that is preserved from the Romanovs family to Stalin and then to Putin. Romanov's family that was killed by Bolsheviks, then Stalin, who was one of the Bolsheviks, and now Putin. And this mixture of religion, totalitarianism, post-communism is something unbelievable. And all mixed once again with KGB, FSB agents, and I'm 100% convinced that Patriarch Kirill, the head of the Russian Orthodox Church, is a very experienced KGB agent. And one more dangerous thing that comes together with the idea of the Russian world as the Third Reich of Hitler is the idea that they treat all people who speak Russian, who like Russian culture, as their citizens, and very often they come to liberate them. And many special operations, aka wars, in countries like Ukraine, Georgia, Moldova, were described as special military operations to save the people who belong to the Russian world. And of course, these people don't want to belong to the Russian world. And I see that now even propagandists of Putin, and I think the top government of Russia, realize that the idea of Russkiy Mir failed in Ukraine, because at the beginning of this war they did believe they will manage to take the country quickly because many Ukrainians share the ideas of Russkiy Mir, but no. And because these ideas, they are totally doomed. They are very much into Nazi and fascist traditions. They are totally anti-democratic, and mainly they are built on this suppression, oppression, and negative description of the world and the other parts of the world, and democracy and all this freedom. It's typically described as weakness, as lack of leadership, and so on and so forth. So one of the things that Putin managed to achieve with this war in Ukraine, I believe, is this totally negative image of Russkiy Mir, Russian world, and in many countries and in many media that I follow, it already goes as a very negative term. Something that changed, I think, during the last years, because at the beginning it was just like an idea that can exist in many different countries. And I think that the normal future of Russia is only possible after it loses its empire ambitions, and other countries that still have this pains of empires will realize that it is impossible to keep the countries on your orbit of influence just because once they were suppressed by you, suppressed by your empire. And that is why I think that in the future the idea of Russian world, Russkiy Mir, will be studied in the books just like the ideas of Third Reich, to never be repeated. If you like my videos, please like them so that more people can hear our vision of the situation, and the voice of Ukraine is much needed today, I believe so. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the questions that inspire my vlogs, and please subscribe. Slava Ukraini!